tes.
Humans keep being curious, solve many mysteries, and create various technologies. Humans continue to evolve, build ourselves and our surroundings in their ways, collaborate with different expertise to bring novelties. Postgraduate programs of ITS, a place where research and innovation open our future.
Institut Teknologi 10 November is one of the best higher education institutions in Indonesia that accommodates many fields of knowledge for the development of science and technology, contributing to the advancement of industry and society. ITS offers many master and doctoral programs that facilitate students as early career researchers to deepen their expertise. As a higher education institution with a research orientation, ITS is committed to providing the best learning experience and atmosphere for all students to become experts in their field.
There are many ways for us to learn. We get to know the world we live in more closely by looking around. It helps us to grow our curiosity.
ITS is the best place for us to explore things we are interested in, such as science, management, information technology, and maritime engineering. ITS is facilitated with sophisticated laboratories and research equipment for various research projects. In ITS, we are able to express our idea and transform ourselves to be an expert.
There are many things that we can do to develop ourselves. Confidence to start is needed to transform the idea into real things. We can explore further through the technology around us. Also, we can improve ourselves to become better individuals.
ITAs gave us the opportunity to expand our connections with people from other countries. Besides being able to deepen our knowledge, we made friends with various backgrounds. We were able to exchange ideas and discuss the topics we researched together. We also got assistance from competent experts in fields that match our research topics, helping us to achieve an objective research with validated data.
There are many goals that we can achieve. Let us show who we are and discover the things that we have been looking for in life.
ITS is one of the points where we start a profession that has more impact on society. Many experiments we do to better understand the problems we want to solve. We explore things that are very useful in managing a release industry. So we are very motivated to have a hand in bringing about change for the better.
There are many paths where we can walk together. Even if not all ways are easy, there will be times when we can achieve our goals. The goals for us who keep curious. For us who want to innovate. For us who continue to evolve. Postgraduate programs of ITS. World-class research university.
Do you ever wonder what makes a life-changing history? Right, a solid mission of the visionaries. It was Dr. Anka and his colleagues' mission to accelerate technology development. Through the establishment of Institute Technology 10 November, their goodwill has encouraged ITS students to take important roles in both local and global communities. Ministers, CEOs, professors, entrepreneurs, and yes, another history maker. These successful alumni were trained in a healthy learning environment that was equipped with various supporting facilities. vocation to marine technology. All faculties and departments of IT were formed to be the best place to learn science, technology, and design. 7 faculties and 1 interdisciplinary school. Faculty of Science and Data Analytics. MARTech, Faculty of Marine Technology. INSYS, Faculty of Industrial Technology and Systems Engineering. Electics, Faculty of Intelligent Electrical and Informatics Technology. CivPlan, Faculty of Civil, Planning, and Geoengineering. CreaBiz, Faculty of Creative Design and Digital Business. Vocation, Faculty of Vocation. And Interdisciplinary School of Management and Technology. Recognized as one of the top best-ranked institutes doesn't mean the finish line for ITS. To gain greater international recognition, ITS launched International Undergraduate Program. Students can get wider international exposure through 20 study programs they can apply. The chances are also open for professors from all over the world to teach and conduct research at ITS. These opportunities have made international joint research and other international activities successfully performed. Like IUP, students and lecturers from other programs have also contributed to the ITS achievements. Appreciations earned exemplify Institute's excellent performance. But technology and academic excellence is not the only goal of the Institute. Students are guided to apply their knowledge for the welfare of society. Because to note a new life-changing history, technology must advance humanity. ITS, Institute Technology, 10 November.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining our event today. Researcher and Research Student Enrichment Program, or we usually call it by R2SEP. Before we start our agenda today, I will read out the important information to all attendants. First, please fill the attendance form on the provided link, which will be shared in the Zoom chat room by our committees. The link will be closed in 15 minutes. Second, please fill the feedback form, which will be shared in the Zoom chat 15 minutes before the session ends, and it will be closed after 1 hour. Third, the attendance and feedback are compulsory for this purpose. A, attendance is mandatory for the new ITS master and doctoral students. B, certificate of participation is eligible to who have 100 attendance. Participants who wish to ask questions during the Q&A session, please send your question at the provided link in the Zoom chat room Or alternatively, you may raise your hand during the Q&A session to ask your question directly. Welcome to the Researcher and Research Student Enrichment Program on today, Thursday, 16 March 2023. I'm Afinia from ITS Postgraduate Office, and I will be your Master of Ceremony for this session. Before we start the session, allow me to inform you our today's agenda as follows. For the first agenda is the opening by the MC, continued by the introduction to the moderator and the speaker. After that, we will get to the main agenda, the lecture session. Then followed by Q&A session, and it will be end with the conclusion and closing. I would like to remind you again to fill your attendance form shared through the provided link in the Zoom chat room, which will be closed in 15 minutes from now. Before moving to the next agenda, please allow me to elaborate about today's lecture. Today's lecture theme in R2SEP is about expectation from being a postgraduate student and life strategy as a researcher, which will be delivered by our speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Mahidin Ramli from University Malaysia Perlis. And the one conducting our today's session as our moderator is Dr. Trianda Gunawan from ITS. Let me introduce you to our moderator for today. Our moderator today, Dr. Trianda Gunawan, is graduated from ITS with Bachelor of Science in Chemistry and doctor degree in chemistry. Currently, he is a lecturer and enthusiast researcher at the Department of Chemistry, ITS. His research interests are porous material, gas separation, surface adsorption, and membrane science. Without further ado, let's proceed to the main agenda. To Dr. Trianda Gunawan as our moderator, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Miss Vivi, for your kind introduction. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon all. How are you today? Cool. Okay. So
I'm fine.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So yes, here we go again. We meet again at the R2SEP session, and this is a spring session actually. For today's topics, we are going to talk about the expectation from being a postgraduate student and life strategy as a researcher. And today we will have an extraordinary speaker from University Malaysia Perlis, that is Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Mahidin Ramli, or maybe we can call him as Dr. Mahidin or Dr. Ramli, as we already met this noon. So a brief introduction to our speaker. Dr. Ramli is a PhD from the University of Surrey, United Kingdom. He is a director in the Institute of Nanoelectronic Engineering in UNIMAP, and he is also a full-time associate professor in Faculty of Electronic Engineering Technology. And his research interest is related about the graphene synthesis, graphene oxide, synthetic graphene, and nano device. So maybe our participants today are maybe you just started your postgraduate life, or maybe you are in your mid journey, or maybe you are nearly at the end of your postgraduate life. But maybe you are curious what is your expectation? What is the expectation of being postgraduate? And maybe you are also curious, how is the researcher life, since most of the postgraduate students, especially for the PhD one, will highly continue as a researcher. So maybe from today's session, Dr. Mahidin will share to us about his experience regarding this matter. And if you also have another experience to share, please feel free to share with us at the Q&A session. So maybe without further ado, Dr. Mahyidin, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, Hamza. Are you ready for the talk?
Yes, let me try to share my slide. Is it okay?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Just give me a few seconds, please.
So while waiting Dr. Mahyidin, this talk will last about 45 to 50 minutes. And after that, we will have a 30-minute Q&A session. And you can ask directly by raising your hand and talk directly. Or if you are shy, you can also write your question in the form that will be given by the committee later. Okay, so yes, we can see it now. You want to
Thank
try
you very
some...
much. You can see the slide, is it?
Yes, yes. You want
can
to
hear
start
me
now?
clearly?
Sure. Loud and clear.
Yeah, sure. So you allow me to start now, is it?
Yes. So please.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Trianda, for a very nice introduction of mine. And then thank you very much to our Master of Ceremony for today's program. So today we will have it's not like a lecture, it's just like a sharing session with regard to our program for this year, which is the Researcher and Research Student Enrichment Program. So first of all, I would like to thank the organizer. And then secondly, I would like to thank ITS, Institute 10 November, Surabaya, for inviting me for this sharing session. So as been said by our MC and our moderator just now, so the title for my talk today is basically based on how postgraduate students, for example, we have a master student and we have a PhD students. So how they can expect, how they would like to behave, and then what should they do with regard to the expectation, with regard to achieve and to realize the expectation from their supervisors. Okay, so as been said before, my name is Muhammad Mahidin Ramli. So either you can call me Mahidin and call me Ramli. And currently I'm basically working in Institute of Nano Electronic Engineering in University Malaysia Perlis, or in short, we call it UNIMAP in Malaysia. So this is just a few pictures and images of our university, and this is the main gate, main entrance, and this is our library building. So in case that you are not sure, where are we? So basically we are in Perlis, which is the 40th largest state in Malaysia. So in total, we have 14 states. So means that we are situated in the smallest state in Malaysia, which is the northern part of Malaysia, which is close to Thailand. In fact, we are sharing the border with Thailand. So I just go through, just quickly go through our institute in UNIMAP here. So basically the establishment of our institute, we have about 5 objectives in total. So this institute basically been founded or established in 2004. And then up until now, they have 4 directors who are dedicated to the achievement of our institute. So basically the main point here, the objective of our institute basically to promote the research and then to basically nurture the talent, means that the postgraduate students, and then we're trying to bridge up. We're trying to shorten the gap between the universities and the industries. So it means that whatever research findings, whatever products, whatever inventions that coming out from our institute, we will place it, or we will try to collaborate directly with the industries that we have. So here in our institute, basically we have 3 research clusters. We call it research clusters. So the first one is what we call the nanoelectronic cluster. The second one is nanomaterial cluster. And the third one is nanobiotechnology cluster. So in total, basically, we just a small institute here. Now, if you compare with the faculties in UNIMAP, if you compare with the Center of Excellence in UNIMAP, we just have in total 22 researchers. And then we have another 4 technical staff. And then we have another 4 administration staff. So in total, we have more or less about 24 staff. So in our cluster, the biggest cluster here is nanoelectronic cluster. And then we have the nanomaterial and nanobiotechnology. So what we do, basically, as I said before, we're trying to contribute to the research society, to the benefit of the research society, especially in Malaysia, as well as in Southeast Asia, as well as in globally, in the world in general. So what we do, basically, we acquired a research grant, and then we publish our findings and results, and then we nurture our own talent and human capital. And then we also offer consultation and services. So in terms of the technical, in terms of the research, so this is what we basically produce and synthesize. So the first one, basically, we produce our own reduced graphene oxide or graphene. And then we also produce our zinc oxide thin film. And then we also produce silicon carbide. And then we also produce the carbon nanotubes as well as the gold nanoparticle. But when we talk about the nanoparticles, we are not only producing the gold, we're also producing the silver nanoparticles, titanium dioxide, and so on. So in terms of the fabrication, so the good thing about our institute is basically we produce our own materials, we synthesize our own materials, and then we use that materials into our electronic applications. So we have a silicon nanowires, we have the polysilicon, we have the polysilicon nanogaps, this one is nanowires, and then we have a thin film, oxide thin film, and we also fabricate what we call the interdigitated electrodes. So this is the device that we always use, that we use heavily in order basically to produce the biomedical sensor or biomedical devices, the gas sensor, as well as the solar cell. So this is the main product, or this is the main devices that we use, as I said before, for the biomedical detection or sensor, as well as for the transistor, for the electronic application or electronic devices, and then for the gas sensor. So we have like a full flow of electronic device research. So we started off with the synthesis, and then we design the mask using our own facilities, and then we fabricate our biosensor, and then we do the characterization in terms of the material characterization, as well as the device characterization. And then finally, we do the sensor testing, not only in lab, but also in the hospital. So this is basically our track record or experience or the biomedical devices that we already produced before. So the first one is the HIV biomedical sensor or HIV detection. So this is the kit that we managed to invent. So this is basically based on the detection of the protein. So for example, when we get the HIV blood from the patient, HIV patient blood, and then we have to extract a certain protein that will be reacted or that will be have some kind of electrical reaction with the biomarker that we already attached to the IDE device that we produced before. And then apart from that, we also have a cortisol biomarker, and then we have the cardiovascular disease for your heart disease. And then we also detect the glucose level in the blood, in the patient blood. Okay, but this one, the advantages of this glucose level, basically we're not using the patient blood, but instead of using patient blood, we use the saliva, the saliva, what you call it, the ILEO. So this is basically a good invention, especially for the older peoples, where some of them they're scared of the needles, some of them they are not really wanted to go to the hospital and so on. So we just extract the saliva, we just get the saliva from the patient, and then using these kits, so we can detect the glucose level. And then we also have the pregnancy test, and then we also have the leptospirosis detection kit, and then we also have the detection kit or sensor for the E. coli and Salmonella, this one for the food industry. And then we also have the cervical cancer detection kit, and then we have the thyroid, and then we have the early detection kit for the dengue. So this is the most recent one, which is the COVID-19 detection, but still under research. Okay, so this is just a bit of a background. I think our moderator just now, the Dr. Trianda, already explained and introduced myself. So basically, I did my first degree in microelectronic engineering in 2002 and 2006. And then after that, further my study in the University College Cork, which is in the Republic of Ireland for 1 year. And then finally, I finished off my study in the PhD in nanotechnology in the University of Surrey, United Kingdom. Okay, now, so we go into our main talk here, our main discussion here, our main sharing session here. Okay, so we all gone through or went through the undergraduate studies. So there's no way you just straight away from, I don't know, the high school into the postgraduate, the high school into the master, or high school into the PhD. So you have to go through, you have to went through your undergraduate session, undergraduate studies. And then after that, if you have a courage, if you have the interest, and then you can pursue into the postgraduate study. So basically, especially for those students who are still in the first year or the first semester or the first year, so you have to have like a very fine line, a very, you have to know the border between the undergraduate studies and the postgraduate study. So during your undergraduate study, so basically it's just a spoon feed. You already have your own timetable, which is given by the universities. You have the curriculum structure, which is again given and suggested by the university. And then you also have a very structured subjects that you have to take from the first year up until third year or final year, okay, or the fourth year of your study. So you just go to the classes and then sit for the exams, and then you finish off your final year project and so on and so on. That's it. Okay, that's it. But when you come to the postgraduate study, there is no classes. Maybe on the first semester or the second semester, there are classes that you have to attend, you know, just to maybe to improve the knowledge on the fundamental issues, or maybe that your undergraduate is a bit different than the postgraduate area of research, area of study. So you have to go for the classes and so on, but only for the first semester and second semester. Even that, maybe one class or two classes, that's it, or three classes, that's all. So what do you mean by that? So it means that when you come to the postgraduate study, you have to stand on your own feet. So you have to be independent. You have to be on your own. Of course, you have your supervisors. You have your main supervisors, you have your co-supervisors. Of course, they are there to guide you, but not as much as your lecturers during your undergraduate study. So you have to learn independently. There's no classes. You have to very self-disciplined, and then you have to teach yourself on the subject that you pursue it for your postgraduate study. So for the master, maybe you will enroll for the coursework or mixed mode or full research. For the PhD, some of the universities, they offer the mixed mode for the PhD, but mostly 99% of the program for the PhD program is a research mode or research based. So this is the difference between the undergraduate and the postgraduate students. For the undergraduate student, you are a student. Means that you attend a class and then you just absorb whatever being taught by your lecturer, and then you try to learn by yourself, and then after that, complete your assignments, your quizzes, and so on, and then sit for the exam. But when you are a postgraduate student, you are no longer a student, meaning that you will become an apprentice, okay, with a view of become the expert in your research area. So what do you mean by apprentice? Apprentice means that you have to follow your supervisor. So you have to have in mind or ambitions. One day you will become like your supervisor, okay, in a way that you will become an expert in your research area. For example, take one example. You pursue your PhD or master in a gas sensor. So from the undergraduate student, maybe you have learned about the gas sensor, the fundamental behind the gas sensor and so on, but I'm not into really depth into what you mean by the gas sensor in terms of the mechanism behind it, in terms of the materials, in terms of structure, in terms of the efficiency and so on. But when we come to the postgraduate student, you are not going into the wide range of the knowledge, but you have to go into the deep, you have to go into the depth, dalam. Okay, so you have to be an expert in the gas sensor. Okay, so you can see the difference between the undergraduate. Undergraduate, you just learn what is gas sensor from your lecturer. But when you go into the master and PhD, you have to master. Okay, you have to profess, you have to be an expert into the gas sensor. And then during the undergraduate study, you just a recipient of the knowledge. You just absorb, you just receive the knowledge. But when you jump into the postgraduate study, you will become the analyzer. So you will learn and you have to learn. Okay, and you are trained to be to analyze the results. When you get the graph, for example, you get the graph, the efficiency of graph of the gas sensor. So you are not just take that graph and then touch up a bit. I mean, put the label and then put the scale and so on, and then you just put inside the journal or your thesis. Okay, so that is not your job. So you have to analyze the results. What are the sciences behind it? What are the fundamentals issue behind it? And then what are the problems and improvement behind it? So you have to analyze the graph, the results of the gas sensor efficiency or whatever it is your area. So you have to analyze the result and hopefully you can create a new knowledge. Okay, So that is what we call a novelties. So you hopefully, I think most of you can create a new knowledge behind it. That's why we call it research. So if you can get a results exactly 100% similar to the literature, to the paper that been presented by other research groups, so that is not research. So the main purpose of the research is to contribute your knowledge, to enhance and to improve the findings and the results for the benefit of our society. So in a way that you have to create a new knowledge, or we call it a novelties. So for the undergraduate, externally directed. For the postgraduate is a self-directed. Okay, so externally directed means that you are directed by your lecturer. So your lecturer say you have to go that way, go that way. You can discuss the result, but I need you to discuss in that way only. But for the postgraduate, for the masters and PhD students, you have to self-directed. You have to direct yourself. For example, that you wanted to use the gas sensor for the benefit of my society. For example, the NO2, nitrogen dioxide gas, when you expose continuously after 7 hours, it will give an effect to your respiratory system. Okay, so now your village is near to the near to the, well, I'm not sure what you have in there, near to the agriculture site, where they use a lot of fertilizer. So those fertilizer basically basically they will have NO2 gas and ammonia gas released from the fertilizer in that agriculture area. Okay, so now you wanted to direct the gas sensor applied into that. Okay, so that is what I mean by self-directed. So I try to keep it 45 minutes, Dr. Triadi. So, okay, so this is basically what most of the students, sorry. Okay, so this is basically what most of the students they think when they try to pursue into the postgraduate. They will get new friends, they will get a good networking, they will get academic enterprise, they will enjoy the research, they will gain advancement, for example, a new knowledge, they will improve the skills, they will learn a new languages. For example, if you have a chance to go to the, make a collaboration, you have a collaboration with other countries, and then you will get a new knowledge again, and then you will have a professional or career development. You try to challenge yourself, and then you try to gain more money instead of just work directly after the undergraduate studies. And finally, you wanted to have the title. Okay, but this is what most important thing. Okay, so most of you, if you pursue master or PhD, either you wanted to be a lecturer or you wanted to be a, you wanted to required by your university or your organization, so you get no choice. So you have to pursue your master or PhD, and then you get forces from the family. So your family force you, they try to motivate you, or your friends, when you see your friends, they pursue the master and PhD, and then you talk to yourself, and then you think that, okay, I wanted to go that way as well. And then some of the people there, some of them, they think that this is their self-satisfaction. So this is basically the primary purposes why you need to pursue your master degree. The previous slides there is what you think. And then the second previous slide there is what you wanted to do and what your people thinks. But this is the primary purpose of why you wanted to pursue your master degree or PhD degree. So the first one, basically you have to tell yourself the main reason that you wanted to pursue your master degree is basically to understand thoroughly and think critically about what is known in a particular academic field. For example, as I said before, the gas sensor. So you have to understand what it means by the gas sensor. What is the gas sensor? And then you have to critics the gas sensor that already in the commercial market here. The gas sensor that been sold, that been in the commercial market for the past few years. So you have to critique. And then some of you, when you pursue the master degree, you have in mind that after that you wanted to pursue your PhD level. So for the master degree is a good way and is a good medium or platform to learn on how to conduct your research in that field, perhaps to prepare you for your PhD study. And then the third main purposes, basically you wanted to put yourself in the map. Okay, so when you pursue your master degree, you will learn, you will have to do the literature review. So during the literature review time, at least you'll have hundreds of journals, papers, the technical papers that you have to go through in order to find the research gap inside the field or inside the area that you wanted to pursue. Okay, so during the process of the literature, while you're doing the literature, while you try to find the research gap inside the area, the field that you wanted to pursue, so you basically being introduced. Okay, so you know the research groups, the peoples, okay, that you look into in your field. So once you know the research area, for example, that again, gas sensor, because I'm doing the gas sensor, you find, basically you found one group doing the gas sensor in, for example, in Indonesia, in ITS, okay? And then you went through their journals regarding the gas sensor, okay, that group in ITS. And then after you went through their works, so you try to understand what they are doing, and at the same time, you also know them. Once you know them, you wanted to try to collaborate, try to connect with them, try to contact them, okay? So this is what we call the affiliating with the academic community. So you try to jump into, you try to put yourself into the map of your research area or research field. For the PhD student, basically, you have to master the knowledge. And you have to have a specific knowledge in your field, okay? The second one, this is where you wanted to come out with the new findings and the new knowledge. So you have to create the new knowledge, okay? So this is what we call the novelties. And then the third one is you have to make yourself an expert, okay? So sooner rather than later, your supervisor, maybe he will retire, or maybe he will move into another area, research area, or maybe he will move into another institution and so on. So you have to be an expert into that research area or into that research field. Okay. Will you just give me a few minutes, a few seconds? I try to. All right. Okay. So during your journey, so basically your master or PhD time is a journey, it's a new experience. Most of you, each of you basically will have their own journey, will have their own experience. Some of them, maybe they can share the same experience as their friends. But mostly, I would say that more than 90%, they will have their own journey and they will have their own experience. So throughout your master's program, throughout your PhD time, you will encounter a lot of challenges. So the first one, this is basically some of the examples that I can come up with. Of course, for example, the third year students here, for example, the fourth year student here, for example, even the second year students here, they went through a lot, okay? And then they can come up with their own challenges. So maybe their challenges are not listed here, but this is the main challenges that I can come up with. For example, this first one is the lack of direction. So what do you mean by the lack of direction? It's a never-ending stasis. So it means that from the day one, this is your title, and this is your area, and this is your objective. One title, three objectives. So in order to achieve those three objectives for PhD, for example, in order to achieve that three objectives, you will have, for example, 6 methodologies. First and second methodologies for the first objective, the third and the fourth methodologies for the second objective, and so on and so on. Okay, so after maybe a few years, after 2.5 years, after the 3 years of your PhD journey, PhD program, PhD time, you have completed 3 objectives with a certain amount of findings and results. But after that, maybe your supervisor tried to, maybe he thinks that that objective is not enough. So you have to add another objective to become 4 objectives. Okay, so this is what they mean by a lack of direction. So in order to encounter, in order to resolve, in order to solve this kind of problem, you need to have a proper discussion with your supervisors and co-supervisors. Okay, so I would suggest that during the first semester, or even the second semester is too late for you, but mostly critically during the first semester, you have to finalize. You have to settle and you have to finalize the objective and the direction of your research. Okay, so once you have come into the conclusion, once you already determined, okay, and agreed on that 3 objectives, so you just follow that 3 objectives. Okay, and then the second one, feeling unsupported and isolated. Okay, so maybe that there are a lot of students in that institution or in that institute. For example, my student. Okay, so I have about, I have 12 master and PhD students. Okay, at the same time. So I cannot deny maybe one of the students, they feel isolated and unsupported. Okay, maybe because of his or her area is not similar to the other 10 or 11 students, or maybe that he or she have a problems, a personal problems, and so on and so on. Okay, so the feeling of the unsupported and isolated, you cannot deny it. So what you have to do in order to encounter that kind of problem, so you have to go into your direction. Coming back into your direction, okay, and then have a proper discussion again. A discussion, a weekly meeting is very important. With your supervisor is very important. So once you feel unsupported and once you feel isolated, so go back to your supervisor, okay, and have a good discussion with him or with her. And then difficulties with a supervisor. Of course, we have a few cases here in our institute with difficulties between the student and the supervisors. So you have to know that your supervisor is a human being. similar to you. So your supervisor, when we say that your supervisor is a human being, so you cannot run away from the problems. Okay, so the human being cannot run away from the problem. So maybe that your supervisor have a problem, a personal problem, for example, a funding problem, for example, or maybe he's busy with the administration works, for example. Okay, so you have to clear the air. We call it a clear the air talk. Okay, so you have to talk with your supervisor. As I said before, the key here is talk to your supervisor. And then anxiety about getting through successfully. Okay, so this has happened to almost every single of us. When you come to the first year, the second year, you become stressed, and then you become anxious. Can I do it or not? Can I finish it? Can I finish it or not? Again, talk to your supervisor and talk to your friends in your group or outside of your group. And then funding constraint, again, financial difficulties, not only to your supervisor, but also for the students, and unexpected personal problems or life commitment. Okay, for example, something bad happened to your parents and so on. So unexpected. Okay, and then finally, this is the most critical one, the expectation. So maybe that you are a good student, then your supervisor expectation is like this, and your expectation or your performance is like this. Okay, so you will have a mismatch in terms of the expectation and your performance. Okay, so again, you have to talk to your supervisor and meet your supervisor regularly. Okay. Okay, so there are common area, there are common things, or there are common responsibility, there are common roles, and there are roles for the students, and there are roles for the supervisors. So you have to be clear, what are your roles when we come to the postgraduate students? And then you also have to be clear, what are your supervisors' roles and responsibility? And you have to know the common roles and responsibility between you and your supervisor. And then this is some sort like a graph, a graph over the time. So I try to explain here. So the main point of the graph here is, at some point, you have to rely to your supervisor, maybe, 90%. You have to rely heavily to your supervisor. There are times that you cannot rely to your supervisor, and there are times that you have to, I would say halfly rely, 50-50 to your supervisor. By the end of the day, at some point, you have to step up, you have to improve, you have to perform, you have to be independent, and you cannot rely heavily to your supervisor. Okay, and also noted that there are some of the roles that you have to carry forever. For example, the mutual respect. So once you are students, so you have to respect your supervisor, even though after you finish off your PhD and then they become a lecturer, become your friends in your department, in your institution, in your industry, in your workplace, become friend, but you have to respect, because once he's become your supervisor, and then he will always become your teacher, okay, your guru, cikgu, for example. Okay, so again, for the supervisor, once they become the student, so always they become student. You have to look after into your, even though that student already finished their study, but still they will become your, forever become your student. So it become over the time. So for example, this is at the earlier stage, the early stage of your master and PhD journey. Okay, so the roles and responsibility of your supervisor is huge. This is your roles and this is the roles of your supervisor, where you have to heavily depending on your supervisor. In the middle of your master and PhD time or journey, the roles and responsibility of you as a student almost similar or 50-50 to the roles of your supervisor. But towards the end of your study, master or PhD study, the roles and responsibility of your supervisor become less. Now you have to step up. Okay, for example, as I said before, once you get the results, the graph, and then you have to step up, you have to perform, and then you have to come out with your own knowledge and so on and so on. Okay, so you are now at this stage, you are not really depend on your supervisor. So you have to be on your own. Okay, so how to start? Sorry, I try to move on this one.
Doctor, sorry
Yes.
to interrupt. You have 10 minutes left. Thank
Okay. I try to speed up. All right. Okay. So first, how to get started? Of course, first you have to consider whether you wanted to pursue master, PhD, and so on. I think most of you here, you already went through that kind of stage. Now, getting started. Maybe the first year, the first semester here, how to get started. And then some of you may be in this stage, and some of you may be in the middle of the research and the writing up and so on. So, how to start? First, we have to consider what are the research area you wanted to do. And then once you have settled that, you determine that, and then you already know what you wanted to do in terms of the area, the field of your research and so on. So you can getting started by finding the supervisor, by finding the, by try to find the funding, the financial support, and then try to find the institution. And then once you already settled on that, you have done that. Now, in order to do the research, this is the main important step. Okay, so you have to start with the project management. So what do you mean by the project management? So project management is the research planning. So this is what I meant during the first semester or even on the second semester. You have to agree with your supervisor on the objective, the methods, and the Gantt chart, the research planning. Okay, so once you already agreed on that, so you can kick off your research. Okay, so this is where we do the, this is where basically you are doing your research. You already kick off your research, and then finally the writing up. Okay, I just quickly going through. Okay, so getting started, choosing a topic, choosing a supervisor, and writing a proposal. I'm sure that most of you here, they already passed this stage, these stages. Now I wanted to focus on the writing the proposal. Okay, so how to have a good proposal? So the good proposal, of course, you have to have the title. Okay, and then you have to know the background, or what we call the research gap, the literature review. So once you already know the research gap, means that the findings that are lacking in that field, in that area. So that is where you wanted to fill the gap. Okay, so your results, your findings, your new knowledge meant to be to plug in, okay, to fill in the research gap inside your area. And then what else that you have to be, then you have to include inside your proposal? The research question, which is the hypothesis, and then you can proceed with the literature review. So project management, the most important thing in your project management is the timeline. So you have to have the deliverables and the milestone. For example, you have 3 objectives, as I said before, and then you have 6 methods. Okay, so each of the methods there, you have to come up with the timelines or deliverables. Okay, for example, the method number 1, you have 2 timeline, you have 2 milestone or 2 deliverables, and then you have to know your capability, how long that you can finish off your milestone there. Okay, and then I just skip this one, and then finally come to the writing up. Okay, so there are a few things about the writing up. I think I will have it inside here. Okay, so okay, so basically the writing up there, basically it much to do with the number 6 of the keys to your success, which is the ethics. I'm sure that most of you have heard before about the plagiarism, about the copying other people's results and so on. Okay, so you have to be true to yourself. So you have to conduct your research ethically. Okay, but apart from there, basically you have another 6 keys in order for you to success. The first key here, as I listed out here, basically be proactive. So you don't have to wait for your supervisor to call you to present your results. So you have to find your supervisor. Okay, so you have to be proactive. For example, that you have a few graphs, a few results that you wanted to present to your supervisor, but before you go to him or to her, you have to formulate, or you have to predict the questions that maybe he will ask you regarding your results. Okay, so you have to be proactive rather than reactive. Reactive means that you just bring your result to your supervisor and then you just wait for him to question you, to ask you, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by this? What do you mean by that? Okay, so instead of being reactive, you try to be more proactive. Means that you try to predict what are the questions, what are the formulation, what are the findings of fundamentals area or fundamentals issue behind it, and then what you will do in order to improve the results. Positive relationship. So this is critically important to you, where you have to create a very positive energy, not only you and your supervisors, but also inside the groups, but also with the other students inside your group. And then you have to get involved with the academic community. How to get involved? Get yourself active with the conferences, seminar, symposium, make new friends, collaboration, and so on. And also you have to contribute your findings into the journals and so on. And then you have to follow the rules set by your institution. For example, set by the Center for the Graduate Study, Postgraduate Study in ITS. For example, in order to finish your master and PhD, how many papers do you have to publish? Okay, and then some of the universities, they have their own procedure. For example, first year you have to go through the proposal defense, and then you have to go to pre-viva before you can go to the final viva. And then the Gantt chart, as I said before, you have to have a ample time. You have to have a capable time in order to finish off your milestone. And then finally, a personal life balance. So you not only 24/7 stay in your lab doing the research, writing, and so on, but you still have to have a good balance between your research and your non-research activities. For example, sport and so on. Okay. So this is basically the explanation that I just explained to you before. All right. So at the end of the day, what you can expect? This is basically most of the supervisor's expectation. Your supervisor expect you to be independent. And then they expect you to produce a very good written work. And then he expect you to seek advice and comments, not only from him, but also from your peers, from your colleagues, from your friends. And then they expect you basically to have a regular meetings, because when you have the regular meetings, weekly meetings or bi-weekly meetings or monthly meetings, it basically will solve 90% of your problems. Now it only leave you about 10% to do the work in order to solve your problem. So have a regular meetings. And then expect you to have a very honest when you try to report their work. Even though you are not getting exactly similar results to the literature, but it is your results. Even though that result is not as good as literature, not as what you expect to get, but it is still your results. When it is your results, there are thousands of ways to explain your results, where you have to relate with the fundamental and the theoretical aspect. Okay, it is your results. And then you have to be, excited about their work, and then you have to be able to surprise them. Maybe they expect you to perform 90%, but you surprise them with the 110% of your performance, maybe. And then students need to be fun to work with. And then they will expect you to strictly follow their guideline, guidance, and their advice. So in order to succeed, I won't say that this is the attribute that you should have. The other attributes is not important, but this is what I can list it out, what I can explain to you, the most important attributes that you should have as a master or PhD student. You have to maintain your interest throughout your master and PhD time or journey or program. And then you have to be supportive. And then you have to give yourself freedom to make the mistakes. You know the sticky note. You know, I always make this kind of example. I always tell you the sticky note. You know, when your sticky note initially is the failed product. One researcher, they wanted to invent a paste, you know, to stick something, a good paste. But they ended up they are producing a paste, you know, but cannot be stick. Okay, but one of the students there, they commercialize the product, and then they come out with the sticky note. Okay, but most of the students, they just throw away the results. They just throw away whatever their findings, because initially they wanted to have a paste, but it is not stick. Okay, so they just throw it away. So instead of throw away, you can use your results, and then you have to relate with your theoretical value or aspect. And then easily accessible, friendly and approachable, reliable, full of inspiration, good communication, you have your own ethics and integrity, and then you should have a fairness, and then you should have a critical friends around you. Okay.
Yeah, Doctor,
Good.
you have 1 minute left.
Okay, I have 2 or 3 slides.
And I would like also to check because the slides that are shown here is not changing. Is it really not changing, or we have a technical issue here? So in our screen, the slide is about there is a map considering a research. Oh yeah, so not moving there.
It's not moving, is it? Okay, try to find the problem here. I try to. Can you just give me a few minutes? Is it okay?
Now we are seeing a slide 41, but in small size.
So can you see the slide now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I just continue to do. Okay, so this is the, as I said before, the expectation from your supervisor. So basically, those are the things they expect from you to be. For example, you have to be independent, you have to have a good written work, and then you have to have a regular meeting with your supervisor, and then you have to be honest with your work. If you don't get the results, just tell him this is the results. Even though it's a bad result, but still it is your results. And then you have to be excited about your work, and then they expect you to surprise them, and then they expect you basically to follow the guideline and their advice strictly. Okay. So I just quoted from Conti in Mercer and Bartlett. So basically, your master and PhD is a process. It's a learning process. It's a learning curve. So you cannot be an expert within 1 year, within 2 years, even within 3 years. So if you can finish off your master or PhD within the timeline that been given to you, that is basically the beginning of your journey. So it is a process. So I don't really see the goal for your master and PhD is to get your master and PhD, or maybe to have a good training in research, or maybe to have your novelties, to make an original contribution in your field. But basically, your master and PhD is about the journey of discovering new things, exploring a new knowledge, and you try to inhabit a new spaces. Okay, so if it has not been a critically important journey for you, then you haven't got much more than a piece of paper saying that you have your master and PhD. So it's not about how to train yourself in the research, how to do the research. It's not about how to contribute, even though that is equally important as well. But apart from that, you have to enjoy yourself, in discovering a new findings, in exploring a new knowledge, and you try to occupy a new spaces in your life. Okay, so basically this is what people see. It's a success. It's a good story. Okay, that guy, he went to ITS for undergraduate and then he get a flying colors. For the results, he get good results and he pursue the master PhD and so on. And then he get a PhD. Now he's become a lecturer. Okay, so that is your success story. But what are the people they do not really see is your persistent. Persistent means that today you are a PhD student and then you go back to sleep and then when you wake up tomorrow morning, you still a PhD student and then you still have to go to your lab and then doing your experiment. And then of course you will fail. Okay, of course you will fail. It's not about how and why you fail, but it is about how to get back after you fail. And then there are a lot of sacrifice and then you have to have a lot of dedication. You have to dedicate yourself and then there are a lot of hard work. Without the hard work, talent only is not enough. If you are a genius, without the hard work, it's not enough. You will not success. And then discipline, you have to discipline yourself. Meet your supervisor regularly and then publish your journals, your findings, your results in the good journals, and then try to contribute to the research society and so on. And then finally, it will be a lot of disappointment. Okay. So this is just expectation from people's outside of your institution, people's outside of your group, and the perception that they give it to you. Okay. So you have expectation and perception from your friends, from your families, from your society, your community, and then expectation as we talk about today, your expectation from your supervisors. Okay, so those are the expectation and perception that you have to deal with. Okay, so in conclusion, so what should you do? So this is the supervisor expectation toward you. They expect you to have a very great and good responsibility. They expect you, the supervisor expect you to have a good communication, and the supervisor expect you to respect the time. Well, they're still a human being, they have their own families and so on. So, and then they expect you to follow strictly, to follow exactly the ethics and the guidelines, and then be honest about your mistakes, and then try to maintain a healthy and safety. Okay, your lab environment. So this is a student expectations towards the supervisors. So basically you can expect your supervisor to be your mentor and your guidance. So you can expect your supervisor to expect your capability and then value their time, your time. And then you can, well, you should expect your supervisor to follow the ethics and then follow or respect the boundaries and also to maintain the health and safety issues or health and safety environment inside your lab. Okay, so with that, thank you very much. I think I will end my talk here. Dr. Trimandi, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mahidin, for your amazing talk. So now we are, yes, thank you, good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck for everyone doing the postgraduate program. Yeah, so we are moving to the next agenda, which is the Q&A session. And here we have a lot of questions already in the form. And okay, so this Q&A will last for the next 20 minutes. And Now we are moving to the first question from Mr. Ardiansa. Oh yeah, for your information, if you want to ask directly, you can use the raise hand features and talk directly to Dr. Mahyudin. But if you are still shy at the moment, I will just read from the form. We have a participant who want to ask. So Miss Hafizah.
Yes, Mr. Trianda.
Yes, okay.
Deliver my question directly to Mr. Muhammad.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Trianda and Mr. Muhammad for the chance.
All right.
So, I am Hafizah Atila from Civil Engineering, and I take specifically major at Water Resource and Management, Water Resource Management and Engineering. So here, my question is, so in research-oriented based on academic purpose, such as to complete magister degree, we have limitation of time, so we have our own academic timeline.
Okay.
So my question is, in this case, in order to get a good analysis of data of study of field in our research, we need to have the requirement data. But in this case, what if we face the problem of lack of data collection? How we comprehend with that problem? Here I'm asking what is strategy in order to give good research outcomes, even though we have the lack of data.
Okay.
I think that's of my question. Thank you.
So can I answer the question directly?
Yeah.
All right. So thank you very much for Miss Hafizah. So lack of data means that first, you don't have enough time. And then the second, there are a lot of constraints when you are lacking, the data lacking. For example, the first one is the time constraint. The second one is the funding, the financial constraint. The third one is not enough facilities, means that you don't have the machines, equipment, and so on. And then maybe the fourth one is you are not designing your experimental planning right. Okay, so there are as I can think of right now, there are four factors that will affect the lack of data. So each of these four factors basically have their own solutions and answers. For example, the timeline. So of course, you can always, add more time. And then we have, for example, here we have issues with the funder. For example, the funder gave PhD program for 4 years. I mean, they will fund only for 4 years. So you have to finish within 4 years, but you cannot finish within 4 years. You have to get back to work. Okay, so in that case, you have to ask your funder to give more time and ample time to proceed with your data collection. So lack of facilities, you can always talk to your supervisor, and then your supervisor will always have collaborator, partners in other universities. Even though the university is outside of Indonesia, but you still have to collaborate, you still can collaborate. Means that you can send your sample there, or you can go there, so talk to your supervisor. And then in the third one is problem in designing the experiments. So again, talk to your supervisor. So you have to redesign your experiment. So maybe the way that you design your experiment is not enough to collect the data. Okay, so go back to the supervisor and you redesign your experimental planning, your experiment planning. So instead of having maybe 5 samples, so this time around you have to have like 10 samples. So instead of you are having 4 or 3 parameters that you vary, So now you add another 2 to make it 5 parameters that you have to vary. Okay?
Okay,
So hope that answers.
yeah, it is answered perfectly. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So here we have another question, which is very interesting from the office form. The question is from Mr. Ardiansa. So he is asking how to measure or put our expectation to be a young or new researcher and to keep our confidence level high.
Oh, sorry, Dr. Trianda, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I
How to?
mean, how to measure our expectation as a usually since most of ITS students who are doing a master is still young, how to measure the expectation to be a young researcher and how to make us have a high confidence level.
Okay. So for me, this is not necessarily true with other researchers, but if okay, then you can follow. For me, if me or my students or my friends or my group, if we can manage to publish our results in a good journals, okay, so that is means that people's are watching us. I mean, people's are respecting and they are basically know what we are doing, and then they respect the results, and they know that we are contributing to the society. Okay, so remember that your journals basically are reviewed by your peers, by someone who are maybe an expert inside your area. So they are the one who reviewing your journals or your conference papers. So if your papers get accepted, then it will build up your confidence. Okay, and then you can measure. Maybe that is what your supervisor expect from you, because there are for the research output either been decided or either by determine the research output basically determined by the publication, determined by the research grant or funding, determined by your awards. Okay, so determined by your awards and determined by the invention of product. So if your research output can have either one of these 4 outputs, so means that you exceed the expectation of your supervisor. Okay, so that is 1. Means that you get the research output, either publication, either your grant, either your awards, or either your another one is your publication, your awards, your funding, or your invention product. Okay, so if you can have this kind of output, so you can say to yourself, you can tell to yourself, okay, I'm exceeded expectation of my supervisor or my society. Okay, but for the young researcher, especially for the young researcher, it's not that easy, to have this kind of research output. For the publication, yes, that is that is a compulsory. Even in order to graduate, you have to publish your work. Publication is easy. Okay, so for the young researcher especially, you have to maybe frequently ask your supervisor, so what is your expectation, doctor or prof or professor? What is your expectation of me? Okay, you expect me to get this kind of results? Do you expect me to get one paper in 1 month? You expect me to get one paper in 6 months? So what do you expect to get? And I wanted to know the research output. So by having that kind of conversation, so you can mismatch the gap. You can try to close the gap between your supervisor expectation and your performance ability or your expectation. Okay, so hope that answers.
Yes, thank you. So maybe Mr. Adriansa, do you have any follow-up question? No, I guess. Okay, so
Thanks.
now we are moving to the next question. This is about time management.
Okay.
So, according to your experience, do you have any tips? How is the best way to manage time between family, work, and college when all three require extra attention from you at the same time? So this question is coming from Anna Kusuma Wardani.
Okay. So based on my experience, so you can follow my advice. If you don't want to follow, then up to you. So my way of works is basically based on the deadline, the due date. Okay, so if you have the the deadline, the due date is very near, just around the corner. So of course you have to work up until maybe 7 p.m. or maybe to 10 p.m. every single day until you finish that experiment or you finish that work before the due date. Okay, there was one time during my PhD, I haven't slept for 2 days. Sorry. Yeah.
2 days. Wow.
Yeah, for 2 days. Yeah, because I need to submit the paper, and then my supervisor wanted to present in a very prestigious conferences in the, I can't remember, in Europe, I can't remember where. So the result is not ready.
Yeah.
So he pushed me to the limits. So I got no choice. I haven't slept for 2 days, 2.5 days. So once I finished off the experiment and then presented the result to him, and then he satisfied, and then he agreed with my findings, and then I sleep for 3 days. Okay, so I mean, it depends on your needs, but on a regular basis. Okay, this is just my suggestion. You don't have to follow. If you want, you can follow. On the daily basis, on the regular basis, you have to work. I mean, for example, in Malaysia, you work from 8 to 6. I mean, the office hour is 8 to 5. But of course, you cannot finish off your work at 5. You can finish your work at 6 or 6:30. In Malaysia, 8 in the morning until 6:30 in the afternoon, 6:30 p.m. Okay, so you have to work within that time, within that timing. I mean, the timeline. Okay, but if some of you, they're very quick in terms of how they do the research, they are very fast learner, so they can finish off in maybe starting from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Then up to him or up to her. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, what is your capability, okay, and your ability. So if you can finish the work within 6 hours or 8 hours per day, then you have to work in 8 hours per day. If you can finish off your work in 5 hours or even 4 hours per day, then you can finish off in 4 hours. Okay, so the good thing about people who are fast workers is the job or the works that ordinary people, normal people have to finish within 8 hours, but those people, they can finish in 5 hours. So another 3 hours, they can proceed with another task, with another job, with another works. Okay, so they are already in a work number 2, but a normal people is still working on a work number 1. Okay, so my point is, it's up to you, but depends on some of the universities. The timeline is master 3 years, 2 to 3 years, in PhD 3 to 4 years. Okay, so you have to follow that kind of timeline. Okay, and then another thing is also depends on your methods. As I said before, you have 3 objectives and then you have 6 methods, 2 methods each for the objective. So it depends on the methods. If your methods takes a longer time, then you have to give a good time, ample time to the methods to be finished off. Okay. So
Okay,
yeah, hope answer.
okay. Thank you, Doctor. So, Miss Anna, maybe you have a follow-up question.
Thank you, sir. That's already answered my question.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now we are moving to the next question. For you guys, if you have any trouble with the link, you can just ask directly using the Zoom. While waiting for the participant raising their hand. So here we have another question.
All right.
So from your slide, you say that the preparation, one of the preparation that we need to prepare is finding a supervisor, right? So here the question is how to find a supervisor. People say finding a supervisor is the right supervisor is the one that is with your interest. But what if you don't know what is your own interest? Maybe you like one field on your bachelor degree, but at the end of your study, you don't like it anymore. This question is coming from the Mr. Yudhistira.
Okay, so thank you very much. If any of you found that this area is not suitable for you, I think it's too late. Because you already in the first year or second year or third year or even the final year of your PhD or master. Okay, so this stage basically before you start your master or PhD. For example, that your background, your undergraduate study, your background is electronic engineering. So you are dealing with the electronic device fabrication and so on, or even design the electronic device. And then you develop your interest in that area. For example, how to fabricate a transistor, okay, or how to fabricate the electronic components devices inside, electronic components inside the electronic devices. So you decided you wanted to pursue master and PhD, and then you find a professor who are very expert in fabricating the electronic components in electronic devices. Okay, so that is how you choose your supervisor. Okay, another way is you develop a certain interest that are nothing to do with your undergraduate study. Okay, and then you find that supervisor who can, in your judgment, can guide you through your master and PhD. Okay, and then might as well, as we pointed out by the one who asked before, you know or you believe that your interest is in electronic fabrication or electronic engineering, but throughout your work or throughout the years, you think that this is not interest anymore, this is not interested anymore, and then you wanted to change the field or wanted to change your area. For me, it is too late. Okay, so you have to continue with whatever you are doing, and then after that, you are free to pursue whatever area or field that you wanted to do based on your interest after that. So finish it off first, okay? And then talk to your supervisor. I'm not really, well, I'm losing the interest. He know what to do. And then I just wanted to finish off my master or PhD. And then after that, I wanted to pursue whatever area or field that I interest of. Okay, so there is one way. Another way, maybe you can talk to your supervisor There are, if you're not too late, you can talk to the supervisor. There are ways, we call it, to outmaneuver. I mean, there are ways to, there are methods, or there are ways where you can change the direction of your research a bit. Not totally change the direction of your research, but change the direction a bit. Okay, for example, I can only give you an example on the electronic applications. For example, you have a carbon-based material, and then you wanted to use that carbon-based material to fabricate the gas sensor, and then you wanted to apply the gas sensor in agriculture sector or agriculture area. And then in the middle of your PhD, you have no interest, you're losing your interest in gas sensor fabrication. So talk to your supervisor, maybe you can still use the carbon material that you already synthesize, and then use that materials use that material to fabricate another device, but still apply the device in the agriculture sector. Okay, so those are the things that I can give examples of. Okay, so there are pros and cons. My first advice, don't change, and finish off your studies, and then you can pursue your dreams or your interests after that. Or there are still there are still ways where you can change a bit the direction of your research towards your interest. Okay, so hope that answer.
Okay, maybe the one who asked, do you have any follow-up question? Mr. Yudhistira? No, I guess. Okay.
All right, thanks.
So we have another question from Mr. Heri Basuki. This is an interesting one. So, Dr. Mahyudin,
yes,
what is your suggestion for someone who hasn't studied for a long time because of his or her career, then want to continue studying to master or PhD? How to and where to start?
Okay, there are a few examples. Even one of my students, they are engineer in we call it multinational companies in Penang. So they are involved with day-to-day engineering works. Means that they are not exposed with the research activities. They don't have any research background, so they do not know how to do the research. Okay, so they became the engineers there for a few years, and then suddenly they wake up early in the morning, they wanted to do the master and PhD. So there are a few cases where they will come to, well, normally they will find their own friends, I can only talk based on my experience. For example, well, you and your friend enroll in electronic engineering undergraduate study in ITS. So after you completed your study, your friend went to industry, become the engineer, and then you went to the you pursue your master, PhD, and then now you become a lecturer or professor in the ITS. And then after 15 or 20 years, so your friend wanted or decided to pursue the master PhD. I believe that the first person that they will ask is you, because they already knew that you already completed the master and PhD. You know the experience, you have the experience you went through, and then you already in the institution or university or in ITS. Okay, so the first step that your friend, the engineer, is to find you. So that is a big motivation. So means that they already have 50 or 60% interest to pursue the master and PhD. So what you have to do? encourage them because they already have the motivation. Otherwise, they won't find you. Otherwise, they will not go to the university. They will not go to the supervisor. They will not searching around the names in university or institution to appoint to be the supervisor. If they done that, means that they already have the motivation, the interest. They already have the interest, 50 or 60%. Now we just have to encourage them, okay, and then tell them what are the steps. Okay, you can start with the area of research that you wanted to pursue, and then you can come up with a proposal, and then you can come up with the Gantt chart, the timeline, the milestone, deliverable, and so on. Okay, so that kind of students who are already in industries for a long time, normally what I will do is I will suggest him or her to pursue the master and PhD in his area. Okay, for example, he's been working in Intel. We all know about Intel, or he's working in electronic companies in Indonesia. So means that he's dealing with his daily works with the electronic components, with the electronic device, and so on. So it will be easier for him or for her to pursue master and PhD in that area. Okay, so maybe he work as a process engineer or equipment engineer, where he dealing with the equipment every single day, dealing with the equipment. So a good field or a good area for him is to maybe modify the machine, or maybe to improve the throughput, to improve the output of the machine, to improve the timeline, the time frame of the machine, and so on and so on. Okay, but if you already a long time, you already in the industry, or maybe you are outside the universities, the academics. So the first step for you to do is find a supervisor. Okay, find a good supervisor and then talk to him. He know how to guide you. Okay, so you have to push yourself, and then you have to force yourself. So the first thing to do is browse through into the university, and then try to find supervisors who are basically in your area, or supervisors, potential supervisors who are working on the area that you interested to do. Okay, so find a supervisor and then talk to him. Don't start anything yet, just talk to him. He definitely will guide you what to do. Okay, if you start with finding a supervisor, means that you already have the motivation to pursue the master and PhD. Now what you have to do is bring yourself, force yourself, and then talk to potential supervisors. Okay, so hope that answered the question.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. So maybe Mr. Harry have some follow-up question.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Muhammad Wahidin, that answered my question, and I'm trying to find it.
Okay.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I still have time, right? Yeah. So we have another question. This is from Mr. Johannes Dwi Raharjo. He have a lot of questions actually. So his question is about the challenges to become a researcher. So the first question is, can a research be conducted with a profit orientation?
Well, it depends on the nature of your, there are a few things that you have to look into. First, before you start your research, and most of the research in the world, before you start your research work, you need to have the funding. Okay, so without the funding, without the research grant, you cannot start your research. So that is not your job, to find the research funding. Your supervisor's job basically to find the research funding. So once you granted the research grant, once you acquired the research grant, you have to look into the terms and conditions. Some of the funder, some of the organization that give you the financial to pursue or to proceed with the research is based on profit, is profit oriented. Means that some of the funder, the term and condition is not paper, it's not publication. The term and condition is not students. The term and condition is basically you have to sell your results, or you have to give them the results for them to use the results to improve their product. Okay, so they give you the money, and then you run the experiment, you give them the result, the solution, and then they will use the solution to improve their product. So when they improve the product, it will increase their profit. Okay, so a quick answer is yes, the research can be a profit oriented. But again, you have to look into the terms and conditions given by your funder. But normally it's not a non-profit. Okay, research is not a non-profit. It's meant for you, especially for the master and PhD student, is meant for your journey in your life. It will be a beautiful part of your life. It will be a good and beautiful again experience in your life. You will always remember, you know, your PhD and master time, you know. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So his second question, is there a limitation that a researcher might not conduct research?
Well, there are limitations in terms of when you are master and PhD student, you have to limit your research to the objectives of your master and PhD only. Okay, because your first and foremost aim and target is to complete your master and PhD. So your master and PhD will be based on the objective. So you have to limit yourself, okay, on the objective that been agreed with your supervisor. After that, there's no limit. After you completed your master or PhD, there's no limit in the research. You can do whatever research you want. Right? All right.
Okay, thank you. So his last question is,
okay,
could the professional become a researcher? If so, he means switching the career, I think. If so, how do researchers get the living expense? Especially if you are a professional already married, have family, and change the direction from professional to researcher. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the first answer is yes. You can be a professional, and at the same time you can be a researcher. But in terms of finding, as I said before you start your research, you need to have the financial. You need to have the financial support, and you have to have the funding. So in order to start your research, first, you have to find a funder. If you cannot find a funder, you maybe can be attached with the research institute or with the university to become a part-time student. Or you don't have to be a part-time student, maybe during the weekend, you agreed with a researcher in institution, any institution, research institution, you agreed with him, okay, I really wanted to work in a research area, and then I can only work during that time, this day, and so on and so on. If he's agree, then you can work with him. If he offered you allowance, then it'll be bonus. If not, again, you have to find a funder, and then once you have the funder, it'll be a lot easier for you to conduct the research, right?
Okay, thank you. So maybe Mr. Johannes, you have any follow-up question?
It's already clear. Thank you for the explanation, Prof.
Thanks. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So we have a question at the Zoom chat from Miss Sharifa. Okay, so do most university expect their new doctoral student have a good reputation journal published?
Okay.
Based on the experience, while master's degree, is your past research is in line with your focus field now?
Yes. For example, I did my PhD in the carbon-based synthesis materials. So basically, in my PhD, we synthesis the carbon-based material. For example, we have amorphous carbon, we have activated carbon, and we have carbon nanotubes, and then we have graphene, and then we have graphene oxide. So up until now, I'm still working on that material synthesis. But throughout the years, you have to evolve yourself, you have to improve yourself, and then you have to step up. So you are not only focusing on the carbon-based synthesis as well. Also, at the same time, also, you have to explore a new area. So for me, based on my experience, at that time, we only synthesize, we only produce the materials, but throughout the years, we use the materials for our devices, and then we also apply our devices into community, for example, hospital, for example, in the village area, for the solar cell and so on. Okay.
Okay, so maybe Ms. Sharifah, do you have any follow-up question?
Am I answering your question?
Where's Ms. Sharifah? Clear enough. She said clear enough. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So with that question being answered, I believe that is a wrap for this Q&A session. Sadly, I know all of you still have a lot of questions in mind, but time is limiting us. So thank you once again to our amazing speaker,
Thank you.
Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Mahidin Ramli,
All right,
for his sharing today. So before I close, I would like to give some summary regarding this sharing session. Yeah, as a postgraduate, now you are, of course, you are not an undergraduate. You have a difference in being analyzers, a critical thinker, and now you are moving into a depth rather than a broader topics. And the most important is the one who is determining your success is yourself. So you are self-directed in your postgraduate session. And please also remember about your roles and responsibility as a postgraduate student. Don't get mixed between you and your supervisor. This is also a reminder for me as well, I think. Yeah, and last but not least, I would like to quote to close this session. Life is a journey and only you hold the map. So go confident in the direction of your dreams, live the life you have imagined. So that's all for me as your moderator. I'm sorry if there are any mistakes during this session, and I will give it back to the MC. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and thank you for all the participants that is still staying till this time. We have 300. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Mahidin Ramli for the inspiring lecture today. And thank you, Dr. Trianda Gunawan, for conducting this amazing session. So everyone, please give applause for our inspiring speaker and amazing moderator by using the Zoom action features for today's empowering session. As a token of appreciation, I would like to present a certificate for our honorable speaker and moderator. I would like to invite the host to share the screen. So this is the certificate for Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Mahidin Ramli as our gratitude for today's session. Thank you very much for your availability today in providing the lecture session on expectation from being a postgraduate student and life strategy as a researcher.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me and thank you for the listening. Thanks.
Okay. And for the next certificate will be presented for Dr. Trianda Gunawan for being our moderator today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Oh yeah, I almost forget. Dr. Mahidin, is it possible for us to have a copy of your slides today?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe the committee will share to the participant later. Yeah, thank you.
I will give it to Devi.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Before we end today's session, we would like to invite you all participants, along with the speaker and the moderator, to take a group photo. So please turn on your camera and we will stop sharing. I will make a countdown. There will be some slides. So cheer up and keep smiling. Okay, now that we have finished the group photo, I would like to remind all the participants to fill the feedback form provided in the Zoom chat. And finally, we have reached the end of today's session, and we sincerely apologize for any inconvenience during the sessions from me as the Master of Ceremony and the committees. Once again, thank you everyone for joining this session. Thank you for the speaker and the moderator for the inspiring session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And good luck everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kami akan end session. Terima kasih semuanya.